Welcome to No Compromises, a peek into the mind of two old web devs who have seen some things. This is Joel.
And this is Aaron.
I'm feeling a little contrary this morning, Aaron, and I want to share some opinions that maybe will be outside the mainstream. And this episode will convince everyone that we are right.
Outside the mainstream, and hold on, because I'm gonna sound like a cranky old man here.
Okay.
Or just outside the Twitter stream.
Oh, yes. That's right. It could very well be that. But
Anyway.
because there's two things we were talking about, and they both relate to testing. And it's something that we've observed, maybe is the right word, across different projects and different teams. And honestly, like I don't know, I'm kind of joking because I don't really have deep, strong, passionate opinions about these things. But these are some things I've noticed that I think bear comment. And so let's take the first one, and they both have to do with testing. So the first one, I've seen this weird, or I guess unexpected, maybe weird isn't the right word, pattern where a PHP developer, and let's get more specific, Laravel developer, uses camel case methods everywhere in their application, except when it comes to testing. And all of a sudden, like, well, here, snake casing methods makes a lot more sense. And
and then you have to annotate it with @test as well.
yeah, I mean, you could still start it with like test underscore whatever, but yeah, I've seen that too. Like let's use the annotation here, and like nowhere else in your code are you using annotations.
Right.
I have a theory for why this exists, and I think it's a historical thing. I think because a lot of people that I don't know, is thought leader the right word, but a lot of people who early on in Laravel's existence promoted testing and test driven development maybe looked at the Ruby on Rails ecosystem, and because they have a lot of good ideas, right? That's fine. We've even talked about that. It's good to look at other communities, but they use snake case test names, but they also use snake case method names everywhere. And so it's just kind of a weird, I think of it like a historical artifact. But then when you call a developer on it, like, hey, why do you do that? They'll sort of like retroactively come up with reasons why it's actually a good idea. And what's your take on that, Aaron? Like, first of all, have you seen this? And second of all, am I out on a limb here, or are you with me?
No, I've totally seen this.
Okay.
Seen this before, and well, it's typical my fashion. At first, I reacted with anger. What are you doing? But obviously, you tame that down and take some time to just look at it objectively.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've seen that, and I've called people on it too. I said, if you're using, your PSR standards on everything else,
right,
why do you just stop them here? And the explanations I've gotten is it's more readable.
Yeah, which, number one here. That's what I've heard as well.
I mean, will that really bother? Well, I can maybe buy that if it begins with the word test.
Okay.
But I don't buy that if it doesn't begin with the word test, and then you have to annotate it with test too. Because I think that's actually more difficult to follow because there's a bunch of methods that all have the same annotation.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that, like, well, then if you have some other methods that are using for helping building some data or something, they won't have that annotation. So it's really easy to look at the list and see which ones are tests and which ones aren't. But I still haven't understood, because as far as I understand, the built-in methodology was follow your code standards in your code and in your tests. And if you begin with the word test, it's going to recognize that as a test.
Right. That's just how PHP unit works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the readability thing, I want to kind of maybe dissect that a little bit, because like my initial reaction to that is like, okay, if it's more readable, then why not use it everywhere? And like I arguing with myself, as I like to do, you could argue, well, method names in tests tend to be more verbose. Like, right, they're describing more of a scenario, but not always. Like test success, right, or test index unauthorized. Like, I don't think that's that much longer of a name than a model relationship name. Or, I mean, controllers will leave out because we again argue you should use just the resourceful methods or invoke. But other places in your code, you probably have multi-word method names, and it's not hard to read. So I don't think that holds up. But then again, like, do what you want to do. We've come into these projects. It's not hard for us either. It's like, oh, I can't read this. What are all these underscores? I'll just throw one other thing out there, and it's a minor thing. but typing it is harder, right? Like hitting shift in just a capital letter is a lot easier than shift underscore. I think like if you sit at a keyboard and you type, it's not
Yeah.
a lot harder, but it's extra characters, and it's just kind of like a weird rhythm to have to type. Like I might be going off on a rant a little bit here, but there was like a lot of um, was it one of the artisan commands? I can't remember if it's models or something. Like you used to have to type it with underscores, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can type it snake case, and people are like, yes, finally. And I'm like, well, so clearly it is better to type in snake case for reasons. So, anyways, that's my rant on the underscores in the test methods. You have anything more you want to say, or anything you want to correct on me, Aaron? Because I know you love doing that.
I love the way you make our podcast sound like I'm just a huge jerk all the time. I know you love correcting me all the time.
Yeah, I'm playing the long game. Yep.
No, I don't have anything more to add on to that.
Okay.
But I think tests as in general is a pretty good area to kind of focus on some other sort of things where
Yep.
I guess I would say this naming thing, like if you did it with underscores because that's how you learned or whatever, it becomes one of those things where it's like you just do this because that's how you learned and you don't really dissect it any further.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're always of the mind that you should learn a thing, do a thing, then dissect a thing, right?
Hmm.
So learn how something works, start doing it a couple of times, and then dissect the way you're doing it to make sure that you know you're making sense and whatnot. And
Sure.
so I think that's the same thing with those method names. I also think it's the same thing with tests, like content in general.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times we'll see people have very strong opinions about what actually goes inside of a test method itself,
Yep.
whether you know you should make special methods in your function or inside your class to, I don't know, share code or prepare things,
Yeah.
or you
Right.
know, if in a like constructor or the setup method you should build a bunch of stuff first all the time, even if you're not
Yep.
going to use it in every single method.
Right.
So have you run into that where you maybe had some conversations about that?
Yeah, I think I would kind of put that under the bucket of trying to reduce code duplication in tests because
Mm,
it's like an instinct we've built up in our application code. Like duplication, especially once it reaches a certain point, is annoying. It can lead to bugs or, multiple slight variations in how something is done. And so there's a lot of repetition in tests. Like you mentioned, it could be setting up the world, right? Like building a bunch of factories, relating things together. It could be setting up users that are going to do a certain thing with permissions and roles and all that good stuff. Um, and so I've seen this where a developer will get a little clever and be like, hey, you know what? I wrote the same test unauthorized method 50 times. Like, what if I create a test unauthorized helper and I pass it a route? Or what if I create one test unauthorized method and then I feed it a data provider that has a bunch of routes in it? Like, that makes things smaller and it reduces duplication, but I actually think it makes it less readable and harder to understand and browse the structure of your tests.
yeah, I mean, I've heard arguments where people say, well, if you can't browse one method in your test, how do I know you're writing good code? You know, so like
Sure.
you should be writing good code in your test as well as good code in your application. But I
Yeah.
think they're a little bit different. Whereas
Hmm.
I kind of look at a test, even a single method, as sort of an external observer of functionality that measures it. And
Okay.
so each individual test is a whole application to me in a way. I mean, I'm
Mm.
not going crazy. Like we have a whole scaffolding around it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not really, but I still think of it that way. It's like every single test method may look similar to another one if I'm just testing a slightly different outcome,
Right.
because I want them to be individual and I want to be able to like just look at that one block of code and know everything I need to know in order to test that functionality that the method's named after
Yeah.
is right there in front of me. And I don't have to go and find it, kind of like you said, but I also know that anything that I want to do to that test, like editing it, changing
Hmm.
stuff or whatever, is only going to affect the test I'm
Right.
working on.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, that's more annoying too. Like you go and fix something in this test and you start running and like your previous tests that were passing now fail or something
Yeah.
like that.
Because they have some shared, like overly complicated setup method that they're
Mhm.
that there's weird interdependencies between them. Um,
And,
yeah.
and, and to say, I don't think data providers are bad
No,
when
no.
it comes to data like user input,
Right.
but it shouldn't be for like core things that the user couldn't iterate through or something like that, or your system couldn't iterate through. So routes are all individual and they're not iterated. They're just one hard code thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like maybe a mathematical function where you're going to test, positive, neutral, and
Hmm.
negative numbers,
Yeah.
that's something you could iterate through with a data provider.
Yeah, we've even done on when we're like writing tests for validation stuff to like, well, if what if I throw these four different, slightly different bad email addresses? Does it catch them all? That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm definitely not railing against data providers, but I think you can take it too far, and
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that. And I like your analysis that kind of thinking of it as a self-contained application, it makes it less scary to have a little bit of duplication, and I like that. And just full confession, there have been times where I've done this. Like I created a helper method. I can't remember what it was on recently. And you're like, Joel, why'd you put that in the base test case? Like you're only using that in like 38 tests or something. And I'm like, shut up,
Oh,
Aaron.
I was so mad.
I know. But I'm just, full disclosure, I find myself with these tendencies as well. And it's like, you don't really need to do it. Because when first, your initial reaction is anger. Mine was as well. Like, shut up, Aaron. This makes sense. That's like, I had to write this like 30 sometimes. And then in the end, it's like, well, if you really need a helper, limit the scope, put it in the test class that needs it. Don't put it in the base. You'd
Mhm.
have to really use something everywhere to justify that.
Right. I think the last thing I'd mention about this whole idea of the tests, individual tests being sort of an observer on the outside and handling all this stuff
Mhm.
is the last thing I suggest not to do is you should never be editing your, well, this is kind of a tough one. So
Okay.
the purpose of one of the purposes of unit testing, it actually helps not only test that the code is working, but it really kind of helps you compartmentalize and sort of make into modules your code because you have to think about more like what's going in and what's coming out and
Sure.
smaller and smaller sections that you can test easier.
Yep.
And so that can help your test become or your code become a better quality.
Hmm.
So that's what tests should do to your code, make it a better quality in its existing functionality. But what they shouldn't do is be responsible for introducing something new to your code base just so you can easily test.
Oh boy, I've done that.
Um, yeah, so I've seen that where like a model
Yeah.
has a bunch of methods, and then
Hmm.
there's one that is just used for tests,
Hmm.
and that's not what that's not what tests are for.
Or even changing visibility of a method to make it easier to like get at from the
Oh
outside
yeah.
world. You've yelled at me for that too. So that's a good point. Yeah, your tests shouldn't drive things in your application like that to that direction.
Hmm.
So in hindsight, I don't think these opinions are that weird, but maybe they're new for you listening to them, and I think it's worth sharing. And I like your point, Aaron, earlier about dissection. Like if you catch yourself doing something, just think like, why am I doing this? Does it make sense to keep
Hmm.
doing this?
And let's be clear, real quick, on this last thing here is we're giving some opinions on how to make this process better,
Yeah,
but we're so proud of you for writing tests.
we definitely are.
I don't know if this goes across all cultures, but definitely I've seen this in America. Is when you have a dude just witnessing something very interesting, like
Okay.
very talented, and maybe he's with a group of friends or whatever.
Hmm.
And it was his like maybe he was like, "Oh, come see this show" or something, and he's sitting there, and then something amazing happens. And you'll see that the dude that brought everyone there like looks at everyone, and they all look at him like enjoying that moment.
Hmm.
But then he nods and goes, "Yeah," as if he had something to do with that. Like, have you
Sure.
ever noticed that? Like when it's like an impressive thing, and he's like, "Mm-hmm," and you're like, "Wait, why are you nodding? You had nothing to do with what I just saw."
Well, they looked to him first, so they kind of set him up to take credit for it.
Yeah, I guess. I guess I just seen on TV and stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's good. Oh, it was on The Voice. I think like it was like
Mhm.
one of the guys singers was singing really good, and the other coaches look over, and he's like, "Yeah." Mm-hmm. It's like you didn't do this after them. What are you nodding for?
Right, exactly. Stay out of it, man. You're just an observer.
What's that called when a camel has two humps? I don't know. But if you're looking for help with other camel case related stuff, we can help.
If you'd like someone to review your test suite, or if you need help building a test suite from scratch, head over to nocompromises.io and book a call with us.